ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ ವೀಕ್ಷಕರೇ, ಇವತ್ತು ಇನ್ಕಮ್ ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ ಇದು ಬೇಸಿಕ್ಸ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಐ ವಾಂಟ್ ಟು ಟೆಲ್ ಯು ಸಮಥಿಂಗ್ ಅಬೌಟ್ ವಾಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಇನ್ಕಮ್ ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್. ಜನರಲಿ ಒಂದು ಗೌರ್ಮೆಂಟಿಗೆ ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ಥರದ ರೆವೆನ್ಯೂಸ್ ಇರ್ತದೆ. It could be revenues from different government companies. It could be tax revenues. Tax revenues is one of the important sources of revenue for a government. ಈ ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ ರೆವೆನ್ಯೂ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಎರಡು ವಿಧಗಳಿವೆ, ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸಸ್ ಮತ್ತು ಇಂಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸಸ್. ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸಸ್ ಅಂದರೆ ದ ಪೇಯರ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ and the person who bears the burden of the tax, both are the same persons. Indirect tax means the payer of the tax and the person who bears the burden of the tax are two different persons. To give you a very simple example, suppose I win a lottery. I have to pay tax on it. This is direct tax. I am bearing the burden of the tax and I am paying the tax. This is direct tax. An example is income tax. Suppose I go to a shop and buy products worth 100 rupees. When the shopkeeper gives me a bill, he adds GST of 5% to 100 and makes it 105. So I pay the shopkeeper 105 rupees. The shopkeeper collects 5 rupees and gives it to the government. So I am bearing the burden of the tax, but the tax is paid to the government by the shopkeeper. This is called an indirect tax. An example for this would be GST. So income tax is a direct tax. Income tax is governed by the Income Tax Act of 1961. This law was passed in the year 1961, is applicable to the whole of India and is applicable with effect from 1st April 1962. Since 1961, this law has undergone a lot of changes, and the Income Tax Act as it stands now is way different from the Income Tax Act that was there when it was first introduced in 1961. Friends, one of the basic principles in income tax is the previous year concept. Now, whenever I say a year, most of us understand it by the calendar year, a year that starts on 1st January and ends on 31st December that follows. But in income tax, the concept of previous year and assessment year are very important. Only the financial year concept is recognized in income tax. A financial year is a year which starts on the 1st of April and ends on the 31st of March of the next year. A previous year and an assessment year is the concept that I want to explain. Very simply, income earned in the previous year is charged to tax in the assessment year. Income earned in the previous year or previous financial year is charged to tax in the assessment financial year. Both previous year and assessment years are financial years. In the previous year, you earn the incomes. As and when the previous year ends, you assess your income. You calculate your income, calculate tax on the income, pay the tax to the government, file income tax returns. All of this happens in the assessment year. Previous year starts on 1st of April, ends on 31st March of the next year. assessment year also starts on 1st April and ends on 31st March of next year. So if the previous year, say, is 2018-19, the assessment year would be 2019-20. You earn incomes during the previous year, and in the assessment year, you calculate your income, you calculate tax on the income, you pay tax, and you file income tax returns. Therefore, always income earned in the previous year is chargeable to tax in the assessment year. There are, of course, exceptions to this rule. There are exceptions to almost every rule under the income tax law. But this is the basic rule, that you don't pay tax as you earn, but you wait for the previous year to be over and pay tax on this income in the following financial year, which is called the assessment year. This is a very basic concept in income tax. Thank you.